Okay, cool. Hello. I've got you guys for a little bit. Thanks wherever you are watching. I've got sort of a team with me as well who are going to be looking at certain skills. Where were we yesterday? We were talking a little bit about questioning. My view, having worked in schools, universities, and companies around the world, is your brain's the most powerful thing, complex thing anyway, in the known universe. And I think sometimes when I'm working in schools, I feel like that the kids aren't always able to kind of understand and harness that power. So really, really simple stages. What we started to do, my name's Kareem, is look at a particular question yesterday and use particular rigorous questioning techniques. And for that, we started to use something called 5 W's and an H. So the question yesterday was, can our education system help to challenge inequalities in our society? So you might have some strong feelings about that, maybe not. And if you didn't already have things, you could use triggers: who, what, where, why, when, and how. What that does is it demonstrates understanding. Now what we're going to do is look at how that moves into structure, mind mapping, and learning. Okay, so I'm a huge mind mapping fan. Some of you might have tried it before. You're like, oh, it's not really for me. Okay, I'm going to try and convince you in only the few minutes that we have. Okay, so we're going to try and look at how this stuff works. Most of the time when I was in school, that would look like my notes. Lots of, maybe a few bullet points, but essentially loads and loads of writing. And what I'd like us to do is to try and evolve that into something a bit more like this. Same information, differently expressed. Now, in a moment, I'm going to get my team to start to work on getting their own thoughts and kind of creating it as a mind map. What I'm going to do for everybody is just show a few ideas and illustrate. So I was working in a school, I think it was around Wolverhampton, about 4 or 5 years ago. And this girl was like, I've got these notes, I don't really understand. She had these notes on transpiration, which, if I remember my GCSE biology, might be the movement of gas or water around a plant, I think. What happened was that she had these notes, they were beautiful, handwritten notes. She didn't understand a word of them. And I think it's at that point that I realized that you and I can write notes forever and ever, amen, but we don't really get it. It doesn't prove understanding, it just proves we wrote it out. And while we're writing, we're in a very passive mode. But look at this mind map. It's got keywords, it's got colors, it's got images, it's got space. It grabs my attention. It forms associations that are linked to my understanding. Well, that sounds a lot better. There's no teacher creating the resources. We create our own. And that's why they're powerful. They might take slightly longer, but they're much more powerful. Working with GCSE students, looking at inspector calls. This is one of the ones that was drawn with me this year, looking at different responsibility, age, gender, and class. So this would be some of the main themes that came up. Maybe we were talking about Christmas Carol and Scrooge. So again, here we would have a quotation: the cold inside in blue froze his features. And that's a metaphor with imagery, and it talks about a process, and hard and sharp as flint, and color, images, association, linking. English devices, way of keeping your understanding of similes and metaphors and imagery and hyperbole all separate from each other, but yet seeing it on the same piece of paper. Food groups, carbohydrates and minerals and fibers and so on. Can you do them about science? You can. How could you choose a keyword unless you understood what you were doing? Can you do them about shapes? Of course you can, and other things in maths as well. And then we start to think, well, can you do them about the way the heart works, or modernism in architecture, or for my friend's PhD? He passed it with distinction. This is on an A3 piece of paper. Everything he knew about the subject was on an A3 piece of paper. Now, each of those lines might represent thousands of words of understanding and communication, but it proved he understood it. I mean, I look at this other situation. I was working in Derbyshire, and this year 10 girl came up to me and she was like, I don't remember this fact. And I looked at what she'd done, and she'd written out 3 sides of A4, every line, like the capital of Thailand is Bangkok. The capital. By the end, she was like, I don't even know what I've written, because that way of working is incredibly passive. I teach lots of different courses, and here's a little secret, in a way. If we're active and interested, our brain is capable of doing amazing things. So what we're going to do is we're going to now put this to the group. So guys, I'm going to give you about 10 minutes. So yeah, who have we got? We've got Tasnim, David, Geraldine, Hazita, Amaya, and Yanat. I'm just going to stop sharing for a second. So guys, just take yourselves off, so the camera's on for a moment. Okay, excellent. So here's the deal, guys. You're going to take what you created yesterday, your ideas around schools, society, inequality, education, all those kinds of ideas, and you're going to start to now create a mind map. So it might be that this stage was all about disability. This launch could have all been about gender, and so on and so forth. Now, if after 30 seconds you're like, no, stop, I want to change this, guess what? You can. These mind maps are iterative. Let me be clear what I mean. They're simply versions. If after 30 seconds you think, I could express myself better than this, guess what? This is working perfectly. When I teach mind mapping to adults around the world, you know the only ones that kind of push back against it? It's the ones who, when they do the mind map of the project they're working on, this big project, it proves they don't really know what they're actually doing. And they get upset by that. But I'm like, no, that's the best thing. It's good to know what you don't know. See where the gaps in the learning are. Now, yesterday you started to create some thoughts. Now, as these branches travel, guys, what I'm going to ask you to do is to carry on your train of thoughts. This don't have to be things you know, but they could be questions to ask yourself. Because I don't expect you to know everything about it, but you're asking yourself interesting questions. And where could that go? And I might want to research more around this. Or is this the same in Iceland as it is in the UK? And all those different sorts of questions that could crop up in your mind. So you're not necessarily producing a photograph of yesterday's thoughts, but more yesterday's thoughts as a launchpad for creating something else. Okay, guys, I'm going to give you around 10 minutes, and then I'm going to ask you to come back in and show what you've done a little bit there. Okay, now where you can, guys, do stick men and stick people holding stick things. Okay, you've all got phones. Those phones have got icons. Those icons on apps, and like it's two lines and a squiggle, but it means something. And I guess that's what I'm asking you to do is when you write down the word gender, what does it make you think of? When you write down the word equality, what image pops in your head? Use color to define these different lines. And I'm going to talk to the guys watching at home about why that's so effective. You guys okay? Awesome. Okay. In which case, I love that, just nodding in silence. Okay. In which case, cameras off. I'm going to come back in 10 minutes. I'll see you in a bit. Okay. For the rest of us, we're going to go on a quick bit of why this is effective. Okay, cool. I'm just going to go back to sharing. Yeah, all right. So this was my friend's PhD on an A3 piece of paper. Now, give me a moment. Here are the rules. Okay. What am I talking about in the middle? Topics around it, and really, really incredibly simple, right? So first of all, we'll talk about paper. Make sure that your page is landscape. All right, my page is landscape. Okay, why? Okay, if you're at home, I want you to try this experiment now. And maybe, just for the sake of it, you don't need to take yourself off mute, but if you could, Michelle, just open up your camera, that would be fantastic. Okay, what I'd like you guys to do is this. Take your hands and put them in front of your eyes, like about an inch or two in front of your eyes. If you're at home, do it now. Okay, wiggle the fingers, right. You're looking straight ahead, aren't you? Now pull your hands wider. Can you see them? Yeah, what about now? Wider, wider, wider. Pull them as far as you can push them. Michelle, can you still see them at the edge of your view? Not if it's there. No, a little bit. Okay. I'm not a weird fish-headed man, but I can still see them at the edge of my view. However, now do it vertically. Wiggle the fingers and move them. Now this one's gone early on. I can still see it in the camera, but it's not in my eye line. This one is a little lower. Okay, hands down. Michelle, that's a very funny little sort of moustachey move there. I liked it. Okay, so what does it mean? What it means is you as a human have a field of view. Your eyes go amazingly this way and not so much like this. And actually, if you think about it, as we have evolved as human beings over the horizon, it must have made sense to have eyes that work like that. Now, fast forward to today. You've still got those same amazing eyes. When you think about it, everything in our culture buys into what you're doing. You're looking at a screen right now, right? And it's wide and not that tall because it fits how you see. You go to the cinema, the screen is wide and not that tall because it fits how you see. So why are you coming to school and college, university and work? And we take notes and the first thing we do is put our page like this. That makes no sense because we see like this. So from now on, and you literally never need to go back unless you've got eyes like this, put your page landscape, because all you're doing is catching up to what the rest of society already knows. Now, some of you are thinking, but my book comes like this. Okay, get a different book. Now's the time to critique institutionalized behavior. Ask yourself those questions. Why am I doing this? Is it a habit or does it actually help me as a human being? Because pretty much from now on in the rest of your life, no one's ever going to teach you how to learn and think again. So it'd be useful for you to think about yourself as a human rather than a student. Start in the middle. What am I talking about? Get these ideas across. Make sure your page is blank. If your page got lines and squares on it, you know what? At an unconscious level, you know what you'll see? You'll see answers, and you won't see deeper questioning. So I want you guys to get blank pieces of paper and let your ideas flow, trains of thoughts, lines carrying on. And then they did, and what if that was, and just move. And let your ideas flow into that space. On the blue line here, I want you to use images and pictures and symbols. So images are more powerful than words. We're going to talk a little bit about that right now. Also use color. Our memory improves by 50% if we use color. And on each line, just put a single word. Just a single word. Sometimes I see people do a line and then just do loads and loads of bullet points in the corner of the page. That's not a mind map. That's just bullet points in the corner of the page. The thing is here, you've chosen one word to go on each line. What it does is it makes you know that you know what you're talking about. Think about if you've ever seen anyone, you probably haven't, maybe you have. If anyone's ever gone for an interview and the answers that you know, you answer really, really surely, but the answers that you don't know, you say everything and everything and everything. And actually it demonstrates that you don't know anything. So what you're going to do is choose keywords to go on each line because it makes sure that it proves you understood it in the first instance. Let's have a look at a couple of ideas. So what happens to you guys often is you get given a piece of text. Here's a simple piece about Albert Einstein. Well, of everything you read, about 10% will be the keywords. So here's what you do. When you arrive at any piece of text, reduce it down in size. It becomes less scary. So you go from this and you move to this. Einstein, born in Germany, 1879. As a kid, he hated school. Teachers thought he was rather stupid. In fact, he was asked to leave. Teachers found it disruptive, but he was a curious kid. He wanted to know how everything worked. When he was 5, Dad gives him a compass, took it apart, learns of it like that. When he was 12, he's given a geometry book, reads from cover to cover. There begins his love of maths. We've got about 70 words there. But we don't want that. What we want is something more simple. Einstein, in his childhood, was born in Germany in 1879. He hated school and they thought he was stupid, but he was a curious kid. And 5 gets that compass, geometry book at 12, and that's where love of maths began. It's simpler because there's 8 words and a couple of pictures. If we can condense what it is that we see. Now, we still need that original text and we don't need to throw it away, but that's not going to be your guide anymore. What you're going to do is you're going to start to think intuitively in terms of what appeals to you. Now, what's great about this is that what I underline is not what you underline, which is how it should be. There's not one answer to this stuff. I guess one of the drawbacks about the way that ministers in this country decide the GCSE should work is it's very much about fixed answers. Here's the answer. Now you've just got to learn the answer. And actually, the real world is a little bit more complex than that. And what this system does is it allows you the freedom to be able to say, what do I find interesting? What do I think would be useful notes? What am I going to take out of this? Einstein. Now, part of the reason this works, so you get your blank piece of paper, you've underlined your bits and pieces, and now what you're going to do is this, a bit of structure and focus. Michelle, join me again. Okay, you ready? Here we go. Michelle, I'm going to show you some sticks on the screen, and all I want you to do is to tell me how many there are. Now, they're not going to be up for long. Okay, you ready? Eyes on the screen. 3. We didn't practice this at all, so I don't know what you're going to say. You'll go like blue. It's not a number. 3, 2, 1. How many sticks were there?
10.
Okay, good guess. 3, 2, 1. Sticking with 10?
12.
12. We've gone to 12. Okay, good. 3, 2, 1. What do you reckon? 12. You're absolutely right. And there's more certainty around that because it was structured. And if information's structured, it comes across easily. This, guys, is a mind map. This is notes. It's all over the place. You're not sure what it is and where it is. But here you've got color, you've got images, you've got space to be able to start to pick things out. If I show you the word elephant and I show you the picture of an elephant, your brain fires in completely different ways. If you only see the word, you only build up a kind of linguistic part of your the neural pathways trying to remember and understand it. However, if I show you the picture, the pictorial part of your brain fires as well as the linguistic part. So if you can see images on your mind maps, they will form far deeper impact than simply writing words on notes. Now, I'm not asking for great art. Now, I know loads of you are like, I don't like drawing, I'm not good at drawing. I mean, I'm not good at drawing, but that's not going to stop me. I'm not good at singing, but that's not going to stop me. What I want you guys to do is to draw. And even if they're little outlines and little things that even no one can know what they are except for you, that's all that counts. How do you understand your work? And being able to actually represent graphically, simply, just with little doodles, mean that there's more power. At the beginning, I kind of thought, oh, this doesn't feel like work. And then I realized drawing time is thinking time. While I'm drawing that elephant, I'm thinking about the reason of it, the reason I'm writing it, and so on. I spent 5 years as an architect. And we used to spend ages kind of drawing and drawing. And I wasn't just drawing like a wall on a plan, but also that while I was drawing the wall, I was thinking, does it need to be that thick? Does it need to be that materiality? Asking questions as you draw. It's an active principle. Color. Our memory goes up by 50% if we use color. Is this the London Underground, or is this the London Underground? So I want you guys to start to think about the impact of color. Michelle, join me again. Sorry. All right, here we go. Michelle, if I was going to ask you, if that's okay, you and I are drawing a mind map about this great AccessHE course that we're designing, and we're very excited about it. And we wanted to think about the environmental impact, the human risk, and the financial aspect. If I said environmental impact, what color would you choose that branch to be? Yeah, you said green. Green did say green. I'm not going to say correct, although all of us are like, yeah, I think it's green, mate. But if I said the human risk, this is a very dangerous axis. What kind of color would you choose?
Red.
I would, blood and danger. But some of you might be thinking at home, no, purple, that's the color of like limbs falling off or something like that. If I said, Michelle, the financial costs for this, what would you say?
Black? I don't know.
You could do. No, I'm thinking gold, if I'm honest with you. And that's okay. We can just have our own colors because we can just separate at that point. Michelle, you can hide away again. Thank you. So use colors when you're working, because actually you start to become intuitive. And now you're trying to remember something for an exam. You just go down the green line and see this, and go down the red line and see that. And all of a sudden it becomes much easier. How do we think? Look, we talk in words, but we think in pictures. In a moment, I'm going to grab the group back. So you guys are doing great. How do we think? Well, think about any dream you've ever had. It's just like crazy things in crazy places. There's no words at all. We process using images, pictures, and space. Yet our entire school lives are founded around writing. Now, I love reading, and I quite enjoy writing. It's not really how I think and work. And in fact, let's look at it. I want you guys to imagine, okay, you're in a room right now, wherever you are in the world, could be anywhere. You're in a room right now, and there's a left wall and a right wall, and there's space in between them. Okay, I want you to imagine that the space in between them is the history of human evolution. Obviously, if you're a creationist with Jesus and dinosaurs, that's absolutely fine. For me, I put a little bit more stock in the theory of evolution, a bit of evidence there, so I'm going to explain according to those terms. The width of this room is the history of human evolution. I want you to look over to one wall. That's you today. I want you to look over to the other wall. That's you at the beginning of time, not a person or even a mammal, not even living on the earth. We don't think. The evidence says a few billion years ago, we were probably single-celled microbes living in a sulfur tunnel. Look at it now. And then you start to travel across the room. Somewhere in the middle, you've become an underwater sea caterpillar or something. And eventually you turn into something dragging yourself out of the ocean, into something approaching a kind of amphibian, reptile, bird, mammal, man, whatever, woman, person, human. And eventually we invent writing. And the history of the word is thinner than the paint on one of those walls. The rest of the time we've been here, we've used images, pictures, and space. The reason that you and I find this so easy is because look how long we've been practicing. Okay, so guys, what I'm going to ask you guys to do now, I'm going to stop sharing. Okay, so guys, take yourselves off mute and come into the room. That would be fantastic. Hi, Hazita. Hi, Amaya. Cool. Amazing, guys. Listen, this is what I'm going to do. We've got about sort of 5 or 6 minutes. I'm hoping that you guys have been able to start to produce some diagrams and some forms for us. We saw a few already. Amaya, if that's okay, just take yourself off mute for a moment. That would be fantastic. Hi, Amaya. So, and again, as I said to you before, like if you found anything weird or difficult, feel free to say, because I might be able to deal with it or bounce ideas around. Firstly, I just asked you to come up with some ideas and thoughts yesterday around the central question. And today was now a way of expressing that on a piece of paper. How did you find the relationship between those two events?
I thought that structuring the thoughts was very useful. Like thinking about a mind map, it forced me to think about the branches. So that immediately made me think about how can I group the thoughts together. So I decided to start grouping them by a type of inequality.
That sounds really interesting. Maybe it might be really useful, if that's okay, you could hold yours up. Don't worry about seeing your face anymore. Just hold yours up towards the camera. That'd be okay. Awesome. That looks great. Okay, just put it down for a moment and just talk us through some of your groupings really quickly, if that's okay.
So I grouped them by type of inequality. So I identified gender, then ethnicity/religion, economic, location, and disability. So those are my.
That's amazing. And did the creation of the branches or the lines give you any more new sort of questions that you'd like to ask yourself as you keep researching?
Yes, I think the branches made me think about how they continue. So obviously I have the categories here, but then how that can be done. So how those inequalities can be challenged, and that's how I continue the branches.
That's really interesting. That's amazing. Amaya, thank you so much. Hazita, it would be lovely just to get your thoughts quite quickly, if that's okay. Hi, Hazita.
Hi, yeah. So I
just
found,
in terms of the, firstly, sorry to say, just in terms of the evolution from the sort of list into a more structured approach.
Yeah, I think it helped to see where the gaps might be, particularly because I started it and then it didn't look like I had much information, to be honest. And then I was like, wait, I didn't have time to research everything I wanted to, but it made me think about what else can be done to answer the bit that I focused on.
That sounds really interesting. So starting to then sort of place what you focused on in the center rather than my original question, and then looking at some of the thoughts that come out of that. Hazita, just show yours up towards the camera. That'd be great. Whoa.
Not too much color.
Hey, look, you said it, not me. But look, as you start to get color in, what you'll feel is that London Underground technique of the information starting to differentiate. Amazing. Geraldine, if that's okay, we've got a few moments. Just in terms of the translation, firstly, then from sort of collecting thoughts yesterday to now being able to structure them, and that process.
Yeah, I think yesterday it was almost a list, and today it allowed me to look at it thematically. I think that's similar to what Amaya was talking about, and Hazita there. And so the diagram visually allowed me to do that. Additionally, I started to almost make keys and diagrams which represent itself throughout my
I think it's time to see. I think we'd like to see these keys and diagrams. So there's triangles, there's upside down triangles. I love this. That's really cool. I think what I really like is very quickly you're reverting to your own thoughts, your own associations. You're starting to build in your own patterns, which I think is great. The two triangles represent
power. Okay. So the triangle which is red is the government at the top, so they have the power compared to the students, versus the students having the power, there being more of them compared to the government, and then an ear representing listening, perhaps.
Yeah, no, perhaps needed. Absolutely representing listening. David, if that's okay, it'd be lovely to get your thoughts. Thanks for joining us, man. Just in terms of the evolution of yesterday's sort of collecting of thoughts to now a more structured approach.
So yesterday I started off looking at the female side, and I also looked at the male side, and I found there was some similarities and also differences. And one of the things that I found for the male side is I was looking into healthcare, so nursing, why there aren't as many males in nursing. And then it made me think about maybe that's why it's linked to, why there aren't as many men talking about mental health or seeking out about mental health.
That's a really lovely point. And I think, again, that movement that's close to something that you're thinking, and just that sense of then structuring. And what I love in general is the fact that these lines kind of come out, because what happens when the line comes out, it makes us think, what next? Well, what else? How does that affect me? How does it affect my family? And all these different kinds of aspects. Thank you so much. Janet, just a little bit in terms of that evolution process for you.
Yeah, I think it's easy to kind of group them, but then you realize that so many things link and you wonder if they're in the right categories. And I guess that's when you have to kind of like join and make the lines between the subsections.
Yeah, I think, and I love this sense of, like, when you're looking at associations, when you're juxtaposing new bits of information, a list doesn't make that happen. It's just a static photograph of things you know. But already now you're saying, what's the connection between this? What's the space between this? And really, that's what anyone's looking for as they move forward in their professional career, is this idea around creativity, juxtaposing ideas and analysis. And already the space in between and the continuation of those lines is making you think that. Thank you so much. Tasnim, briefly for you, that would be great.
Hi. So yeah, like yesterday I had like a lot of detail in my notes when I was researching. So I had to kind of like think up words to put into the sections. That was kind of hard, but I think I did it.
Yay. Can you hold yours up briefly?
Yeah.
Is that okay?
Oh, sorry, the lighting is kind of bad, so I don't really know.
No worries. No, I can see stuff. Hey, that's great. And I love the words on these lines. They look really, really good. Tomorrow, Tasnim, we might have to work a bit more on getting more pictures in there, but I love it for now. And Geraldine, no, who was it? Who needs color? Hazita, color. Guys, that's fantastic. Listen, for anyone watching at home and also just here now, all we've done is spend 10 minutes researching and 10 minutes structuring. That's 20 minutes. And already look at the cross-pollination of ideas. You know, the way in which we're going to survive as a society is by being able to be open and frank and vulnerable with each other. I started with a single question, and already there's great diversity here. What we're going to work on next is how to remember forever. I can literally show you how to never forget again, which is great when it comes into presentations, because you're like, I don't even need my notes. So tomorrow we're going to play that game. Again, I'll structure everyone for 10 minutes at the beginning, and then I'll do some experiments with any of you guys at home, okay? It's been really lovely to see you again. I'm going to hand back to Michelle. Well done, everybody, in case I don't get a chance to say it.
Thanks very much, Kareem. I'm very excited to learn how to remember forever. That sounds like a very useful skill. Fantastic. Well, thank you for joining our session today. Just a quick request as per yesterday, and we're really keen to know who is watching today, so we can see if any of our schools have joined us from across North London. So do go to menti.com and enter the code 41930192. So that we can see who's watching, but we look forward to seeing you again tomorrow for day 3. Have a good afternoon.